32-year-old Oneida Salam was supposed to be discharged over a month ago at the Upper West Regional Hospital, where she was admitted to the medical ward. She was diagnosed to have kidney disease, prompting medical doctors to refer her to the dialysis center for treatment and later to be discharged. Due to her unpaid bills, which are pegged around 5,800 Ghana cedis at the time, Obeida is unable to leave the hospital and has piled up additional 4,200 Ghana cedis in the last handful of weeks for dialysis. JoyNews Upper West Regional correspondent Rafiq Salam, who visited her at the dialysis center, reports that her bills have now risen to a little over 10,000, and she's calling on government and benevolent organizations to come to her aid to offset her bills to enable her go home.
In charge of the dialysis center of the Upper West Regional Hospital, Kurusa Daniel removed the veil on the myths surrounding dialysis.
Especially within our community here, people think like when you are having kidney problem and you are supposed to do dialysis, it's a death warrant, but it is not so. So we are doing our best to actually demystify that perception that the public hold.
The dialysis center of the Upper West Regional Hospital was established in November 2022 and has since attended to by dozens of patients. One of them is 32-year-old Obeida Salam. She cannot exactly state what she had a kidney disease that requires dialysis, except to list the symptoms that force her to come to the hospital for a medical examination.
I had swollen legs, bloated stomach, puffy face, and high blood pressure. I have never been to the hospital without the doctors telling me I have high BP.
The mother of 3 every week comes to the dialysis center twice for treatment. She is required to pay at least 450 Ghana cedis for each session, an amount that she struggles to pay considering the petty business that she is in, selling soft drinks and sachet water, carrying them overhead. Her husband is a master craftsman, but very hard work that can take care of the family, let alone paying for dialysis.
It is difficult for us to pay for the dialysis. Sometimes we owe them, and anytime we get the money, we pay back. Our being here is being taken care of by our blood relations. We are very poor. My husband cannot afford the 450 Ghana cedis. Without the support of my family, I would have been dead by now.
Obeida was supposed to be discharged by the hospital a month ago so that she could come into the center for the dialysis. She is however unable because she cannot offset her medical bills. Her medical bills at the hospital is a little over 10,000 Ghana cedis, including the dialysis, which she has defaulted payment of 4,200 Ghana cedis.
Because of the cost involved, so especially this woman, she's supposed to have gone home, I think last 2 months, and be coming for dialysis. But because of cost, they can't even offset the hospital bill at the ward level. So they are forced to be here and be coming for the dialysis till they pay the bill, then they go. So for her like this, it's the cost that is keeping her. If not, she would have been home and be coming for dialysis.
Unemployed middle age, Mariam Yahya is a mother-in-law of Obeida. She says they are at their wit ends and seem to exhaust all channels to enable them for the medical bills.
We have nowhere to go for money again, and yet our bills are piling up. It is because we are unable to offset our bills. That is why we are still here.
Speaking during a JoyNews Thought Leadership event held in our studios yesterday, Presidential Advisor on Health Dr. Anthony Siasa revealed that National Health Insurance has set up a committee to review and assess whether the NHIS can absorb the cost of dialysis. This was corroborated by the Director of Corporate Affairs at the NHIS, Oswald Mensah, at the same event that brought together all stakeholders. Dr. Anthony Nsiasare also revealed the process to make kidney transplant available in Ghana is underway, with a document being reviewed for a law to harvest, store, and donate organs. Maxwell Agbagba has more in the following report.
I'm very angry.
What's your story?
I am very angry. I'm more angrier this morning. People are dying each day. The dialysis machine in Kolebu got...
Voice of activist Nasiba Bauer at a protest demanding a reduction in the cost of dialysis treatment after the Kolebu Teaching Hospital increased the cost from 380 cedis to 765 Ghana cedis. The amount has since been reversed. It triggered the Dialysis Crisis series on Joy News, highlighting the plight of 54-year-old Georgina Pia, who couldn't afford the cost of dialysis. 15-year-old Priscilla Sante, who died some hours after she was featured in the series, pleading for assistance with her dialysis treatment. Some patients with kidney failure held a press conference and said 14 of their members have died between May and September after the Kolebu Teaching Hospital limited its dialysis treatment to just emergency cases. The hospital said it had run out of consumables. The renal patients who said they were being sponsored were now compelled to pay for dialysis treatment in other facilities. Speaking during the stakeholders event held in the studios of Joy, Chief Executive Officer of the Kolebu Teaching Hospital, Dr. Pukuwari Ampoma, said the decision was taken because the Kolebu Teaching Hospital renal unit is suffocating under a 4 million Ghana cedis debt. He's unsure when the services will be made available to outpatients. He says the facility will also need 961,000 Ghana cedis monthly to keep the cost of dialysis at 380 Ghana cedis.
We are now engaged with government, with the ministry, with other stakeholders to see how quickly we can, find the resources to advance. Because at the moment we are sitting in a 4 million cedi hole. If we are to operate at our current capacity, which is about 2,000 dialysis sessions every month, then it means that we are going to accumulate about 961,000 cedis of debt every month, in addition to the 4 million cedis that we have already. So this is financially unsustainable.
You can't tell when exactly the OPD will be opened.
Yes, exactly.
You can't tell.
I can't. Yes.
Okay.
So it's 4 million. We have a 4 million deficit.
Deficit. Okay.
And then if you are to run at full capacity, we will need about 961,000 cedis subsidy every month to be able to maintain the current prices.
Presidential Advisor on Health, Dr. Anthony Nsiasare, says steps have been taken to settle the debt.
We are waiting for what they are supposed to bring and then to be worked on as quickly as possible. The money is supposed to be provided by our Ministry of Finance, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah. Okay.
So Dr. Ampoma has to put everything that he is doing, that is being asked to do, as quickly as possible in place. If I were him, I would use 24 hours to put everything in place and present it.
We can now listen to a pharmacist and CDD fellow in health who also participated in that conversation.
A lot of us thinking that the previous government had been symbolic, and I make no apologies for my views then. The first thing they did was to pass a law to say statutory payments could be capped, and they could then decide what they were going to use it for. What they didn't realize, and that is why I always go by data, they didn't look at our 10-year disease trends to realize that our disease burden as a country was doubling. And we were moving from a situation where predominantly infectious diseases were the mainstay of our disease burden to a stage where chronic diseases are the mainstay of our disease burden. So for example, currently, if you look at 2022 data, malaria is still the leading cause of mortality, but its contribution to our mortality has dropped by 46.6%, whereas strokes have gone up by almost 10%. So if you go capping the funds when the diseases that are causing people to die are more expensive to manage, you cannot convince me that the NHIS, and that's why you've seen on my social media handles, I've asked the question. Those people telling me and Ghanaians that the NHIS should take on and fund dialysis, where are they going to get the money from? The truth of the matter, and that was why some of us raised hell when this whole capping law was going in. The truth of the matter of a health insurance scheme is that you expect them to have an excess of inflows so they can invest it. So when they are recalled to pay for some of these more expensive procedures like chronic diseases, dialysis, prostate cancer, breast cancer, they can get money out of the investments they have made with the premiums they have received to pay for them. But this government, in its wisdom, telling us we have the men, took the money and said they can prioritize where the money should go. So I'm now listening to someone from the NHIS telling me that we are not liquid. And I'm saying, now who costs up? How can you be liquid when you never invested the monies that were coming to you for 6.5 years? You can't be. And that's why, though we are having a serious conversation, I am laughing. Because I'm like, we shot ourselves in the foot, and now we are bleeding, and we are saying, how come the gun hurt?
Has completed its first review of the IMF economic program under the extended credit facility arrangement. This came up at the joint news conference held by the Ministry of Finance and the IMF team this morning. Ghana's Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta made the revelation.
Which ended up with front-loading, such that, God willing, by November, we actually would then have released 1.2 billion of the 3 billion effective in that. So truly a lot of work has gone into this to give Ghana the opportunity to stabilize much faster. And this all hinged on the fact that Cabinet moved us very quickly to prepare the PC-PEC program, which then, underpinned the work that the fund also had to do. So I'm pleased to announce that the progress that we sought to achieve is very, very much on course. The stability that the Ghanaian economy was very much in need of has been achieved. We said we have turned the corner. And the major economic indicators such as inflation, as Governor mentioned, the exchange rate continues to drop and stabilize, and there's confidence returning in the economy. I'm happy to confirm that Ghana has just completed its first review of the IMF program, as Stefan has announced. The first review, had key deliverables, including the 6 performance criteria, the 3 indicative targets, and the 3 structural benchmarks that were due at the end of June 2023. So you can imagine the work and the anxiety, the speed with which people have worked, even as we also try to manage demonstrations in the middle of that. But we are all good and we are in good order. So assessment of the progress at meeting program targets also due by end September 2023 and end December 2023, and discussions on the policy framework for 2024.
The IMF mission chief for Ghana said a staff-level agreement is subject to IMF management approval and executive board consideration once the necessary financing assurances have been received. He was impressed at the level of progress made so far.
It was designed to have reviews every 6 months, and so the current mission is intended to hold discussions on the first review of the program. During this mission, and even before, we have been engaging very closely with the authorities on program implementation. I'm very pleased to announce that we have reached a staff-level agreement on the first review of the program. Let me add that let me add that the agreement is subject to the approval of IMF management, and our executive board, once the necessary financing assurances have been received. An agreement with official creditors on the debt treatment in line with program parameters would provide these needed financing assurances. Once our executive board review is completed, Ghana would have access to another $600 million, bringing the total IMF financial support disbursed under the arrangement since May, when the program was approved, to about $1.2 billion. Assessment is that performance under the program has been very strong and consistent with the authorities' commitments. Specifically, the authorities have adjusted the course of policy making to confront very difficult economic and financial conditions and to ensure a brighter future for all Ghanaians. On the fiscal front, more specifically, the government has adjusted the policy stance to bring about a reduction in deficits and restore the sustainability of public finances. This started with a bold 2023 budget that sought to increase revenues and reduce expenditure.
Governor of the Bank of Ghana, Dr. Addison, also had this to say.
It has been a very comprehensive and collaborative work between the government side and the IMF. And this has made the two-week mission very successful and fruitful, leading to the staff-level agreement today. We have all established that the very decisive measures put in place by the government and the Bank of Ghana have started yielding results, signaling a faster than expected turnaround, which needs to be sustained as we reset the economy. More specifically, non-food inflation has dropped significantly by 19 percentage points. Food inflation has also come down by about 8 percentage points. Core inflation, which measures underlying inflation, is also decelerating at a fast pace. From the beginning of the year to date, the Bank of Ghana has built reserves of about $650 million instead of the programmed drawdown of $98 million. And this has been boosted by the innovative Gold for Reserves program. And as a result, we have seen relative stability in the exchange rate, depreciating by only 2.5% between February and now.
Accra Circuit Court has sentenced a 22-year-old househelp who murdered his employer at Sakobana Paso in yet another crime to 20 years imprisonment. John Alista was convicted to 20 years each on 2 counts of stealing, but the sentence is to run concurrently. The convict had pleaded guilty to stealing an amount of 167,000 Ghana cedis belonging to the owner of a hotel where he worked as a receptionist. John Alista made headlines last month for allegedly stabbing to death his employer 6 days after he got employed by 35-year-old Stella Osei, also known as Princess Efuahin Khan. We'll bring you details and videos of this in our subsequent bulletins. Meanwhile, the Ghana Police Service say they are on a manhunt for an unidentified lone robber who has been terrorizing residents of some affluent communities in Accra. CCTV footage of some of the robberies cited by JoyNews shows the suspect sneaking into people's homes, holding his victims at gunpoint and demanding money and other valuables from them. Residents are unhappy that the police have not done enough to apprehend the suspect, even though enough evidence has been gathered since March 2022. We'll hear from one of the residents shortly, but last night the police issued a statement assuring that they are on a manhunt for the suspect. Well, I've been joined by a victim of this robbery. and she'll be speaking to us on or recount her ordeal. We've seen a video of the suspect's activities, but I want you to paint a picture for us. How does he go about these robberies in a supposed high secured settlement and get away with it?
Thank you very much, and good afternoon to your listeners. The robbery attack occurred on Somanya Highway. We were coming from Osuwe from a program, and we were attacked. We met the armed robbers on the way. They attacked us. They took away our money and our phone. Unfortunately, we have not seen the armed robbers to affirm whether we know them or not. We have not seen the armed robbers. But the police then assured us that they will do everything possible to bring the perpetrators to book.
Well, we understand that residents who have reported the issue to the police since March last year, I mean, you also took the pain to document some of the series of robberies since then. What has the police done about it?
Well, the police assured us, but as it stands now, they have not done anything effectively for us to see. But the only thing we received from them was an assurance that they are going to make sure they investigate and all perpetrators of that hilarious act to be brought to book. But as it stands now, we have not seen anything from the police service.
Expectations, as you say, that the police is assuring you that they will work on it.
Please come again.
What are your expectations of the police?
Our expectations are that they honor, they work by what they have promised. Because if still the police cannot assure us of safety, and our citizenry and people living in the community are still living in fear, then obviously we have much to worry about. The police will be both engaged in our community and make sure the respect of this hilarious crime to a book.
Thank you very much. You heard the Alex, as we choose to call him. He's a resident of one of the affluent communities where a lone robber is terrorizing, and they say the police has not done much about it. To other stories, a special task force under the Interministerial Committee for State Land Reclamation has begun operations to reclaim sections of a 2,000-acre land acquired by the government for dairy farms. Parts of the land, which is located in Amrahia, Damfa, and parts of Oyarifa have been encroached by private developers, as some persons have in recent times turned the rest into illegal gravel and sand winning sites. Government has declared war on the perpetrators as it began a special operation to reclaim all government lands from encroachers. The following report has details.
The 2,000-acre Damfa dairy farmlands was acquired by the state in 1969 for cattle rearing and dairy products as part of government's industrialization agenda at the time. But 50 years after the project had failed, landowners started agitations calling on government to release the land. After several petitions, government released 40% of the land to stool owners in the year 2021.
Some time back, the Minister of Lands announced the release of 40% of dairy farmlands back to the family. Demarcations have been done, but allocations have not been formally done to the families involved. Unfortunately, we're having sand winning and encroachment. As you can see, there's a massive encroachment on the land. And then sand winning is just like every part of the land. And there are gullies over here and there.
Speaking to the media after a swoop on Thursday, member of an interministerial committee responsible for reclaiming the state lands, Clemens Jato, says all encroachers will be apprehended.
Fortunately, we've been able to apprehend a tipper truck. The others bolted away because probably the head task force was coming here. Yeah. Well, the encroachers should halt so they don't waste their money. The sand winners, my advice to them, when government gets hold of them, they'll be in big trouble. You need permit to win sand. You need to go to Mineral Commission for permit before you do this. Otherwise, your actually perpetuating an illegality, and you can be punished or dealt with.
He also advised all potential buyers to do due diligence with the Lands Commission to avoid acquiring state lands from unsuspecting sellers.
If you look at the way land is acquired, I would advise all suspecting buyers to do proper search before coming to a site and or parting with money for such a venture. It's too risky to part with money. If you buy government land, we all know adverse possession does not apply to government land.
Welcome, time for business with me, Emma Davis. Procurement expert Dr. Kangsin Pente is making a strong case for a change in Ghana's procurement system within the public sector. This comes on the back of comments from economist Professor Peter Korte that the current procurement system is fraught with corruption. According to Dr. Pente, government should deepen its punitive measures on persons found to have breached the procurement law.
We may have to go back to the basics where we started from, where we have the Ghana National Procurement Agency and then the Ghana Supply Commission, where we isolate and transition every procurement activity in the public sector space into what I refer to as a Ghana Government Procurement Organization. That organization should run its balance sheet and must report to Parliament. Therefore, you will have just two coordinators or a very lean team at each respective MNDA that will be responsible to coordinate procurement activities with the Ghana Government Procurement Organization, who will run its own balance sheet, and then we'll put in appropriate governance framework to category manage spend for each ministry and department. A master service agreement can be established to regulate how the services that are rendered by the Ghana Government Procurement Organization to the various MMDAs. So what it means is that you are taking away the actual procurement activity to an entity that will be set up by regulation, okay, to focus on executing procurement for government. We have a CEO there who reports to Parliament, and he will ensure performance and consequently manage bad behaviors as far as procurement is concerned. We can actualize real and enhance value for money from this particular framework. Okay. On top of it, we have technology that they will use to leverage. They will leverage to execute procurement in that regard. So a couple of things to be done. In the medium term, I've prescribed some measures that to be done that is required to implement, that need to be operationalized to achieve this. In the medium to the long term, I think that we need to move procurement from the various MMDAs to an organization called the Ghana Government Procurement, which will run its own budget and regulated by regulation, but must report to Parliament. Maybe with a dotted line to the President. So we need to change the architecture and then reorchestrate how procurement is configured within the public sector.
As part of this year's Cybersecurity Awareness Month, some stakeholders in the ecosystem are calling for more sensitization programs on cyber threats. According to the Executive Director of Slum Foundation, Francisca Boateng, this is necessary to consolidate government's quest to curb cyber-related crimes. She spoke to Joy Business after a 3-day training on cybersecurity.
The training falls under the 1 Million Campaign Initiative aimed to significantly improve information, communications, and technology, as well as cybersecurity literacy in Ghana. According to Francisca Boateng, the campaign seeks to equip 1 million people with introductory IT skills.
So the main focus is to bridge the gap, help people that normally will not be able to afford the training. So our goal is to bring people in from all diverse communities, especially the underprivileged, to take these courses, because as Duan said in her presentation, there's a skills gap of 4 million people when it comes to cybersecurity.
Chief Executive Officer of Slum Technologies, Samuel Boateng, made a strong case for more investment within the space to create jobs.
So as we look into the advancements of technology in terms of cybersecurity, you mentioned AIs and then the machine learning. It's moving very fast, but then there has to be a regulations on this. So with our training, we bring it down so that everybody will learn, because you can Google everything from online, or you can put into perspective by searching something, and then the AI will give it to you. It doesn't mean that you know. And so we bring the students on board, and then we show them step by step how you can use the AI. AI probably doesn't have lifetime.
Director of DEI of ISC2, Duane Jones, explained the need for Ghana to expand its investment within the IT space.
Do things that you see here. So continuing to hold partnerships, to hold events, hold partnership trainings like this, to be able to showcase what we can do if we do it together, and to showcase all the opportunity that is here, to see that room full of so many students who are eager, they're ready, they're willing, and they want to be a part of the cyber ecosystem. That's what we want to see, especially someone coming from outside of the country, and it makes us want to come back and come back again.
The cybersecurity training was under the theme, Building a Secure Digital Future.
That's all for business. My name is Emma Davis. For more business news, log on to myjoyonline.com/business. Joy News Today continues. Please stay.